Well, kia ora, good morning everybody. As you know, earlier this week a journalist raised concerns and concerning allegations about a staff member temporarily employed in my office. I have to say my sympathy is with the women who raised these allegations and were made to feel unsafe due to the actions of this person. I was incredibly concerned to hear of these allegations relating to conduct before this person joined my office. But because of the seriousness of the allegations, my team moved extremely quickly. That evening, it was agreed the staff member would be stood down and he then resigned the following morning. However, had he not done so, his employment would have been terminated following a short investigation. I do want to acknowledge and thank the staff in the Beehive and the Parliament who have worked alongside this individual and understandably have found the news upsetting and distressing, and I'm committed to ensuring that they have all of the support that they need. I have zero tolerance for any behaviour that makes women or anyone feel unsafe, and this individual's conduct fell unacceptably short of the standards that I expect from our people. And that's why you've seen us move within 24 hours of these allegations being put to us. This person is no longer employed in the Beehive. With that, happy to take your questions.
Blindsided by this Prime Minister?
Sorry, Bernard.
Were you blindsided by this Prime Minister?
Oh, look, it was an absolute shock. We had no awareness, no knowledge of it. The concerns were raised with us by a journalist at 4 o'clock on Tuesday, as you're aware. Yeah, complete shock to all of us.
He's worked with the National Party.
Sorry?
Michael Forbes has worked with the National Party for a long time. Have there ever been concerns raised in the workplace about his behaviour? Nothing?
No. Are you frustrated police never informed Ministerial Services of his absence office or your office about their investigation into his behaviour?
Well, look, we've got to make sure we respect the independence of the police. That's really important. But I think your question's a fair one, which is that DIA will continue. It doesn't end with the resignation of this individual. DIA need to look at the processes, particularly the interagency processes, to see what we can learn from this and improve our processes.
Do you believe there should be an obligation on police to inform Ministerial Services if the staff in the Beehive comes to their attention?
Yeah.
Privy to it?
Well, as I said, there's a difficult situation where you need to make sure that police are independent, but equally there is work that will now go underway, which Ministerial Services will lead on a deep dive to understand what other actions need to be taken to improve our processes.
What can you say about the vetting process in terms of whether he was vetted ahead of moving into Louise Upston's office and whether any subsequent vetting was done moving into your office?
Yeah, so as I understand it, he was vetted coming into Louise Upston's office back into the Beehive. The incidents happened subsequent to that vetting, and then obviously he moved into my office in February this year. Those are good questions around making sure that we got all the vetting processes correctly. Obviously there's a need for people working in my office to have security clearances, all of that good stuff. But in this case we were asking DIA to do a deep dive on what else.
Did he have a security clearance?
Whether he was dishonest at all, if there was any vetting or any questions ahead of him going into your office, was he dishonest at all about any potential police investigation?
Well, look, I mean, the key thing was he was vetted coming into Louise Upston's office. As I understand it, the incidents happened subsequent to that. He has an obligation to actually declare those issues or those incidences to us. That didn't happen, which is why there would have been employment terminated, obviously. But there is a good question about making sure, and I've asked specifically for DIA to look at our vetting processes, particularly the interagency pieces of it, and they will do a bit of a deep dive on that.
What kind of security?
What staff in the building were aware over the past year about that police investigation? I know you say you weren't, but do you now know whether any other staff were aware?
Not that I'm aware of. This has come as a total shock to us and to the people that have worked with them and to our team. So from what I'm aware, there has been no other issues raised or concerns or awareness of this issue at all.
What kind of security clearance did he have? Was it classified? Did he have access to?
I'm not able to talk about the security clearances. Obviously, it's an employment thing and it's very strongly linked to Ministerial Services and what we do around the process around security clearances. But suffice to say, he had the vetting that he needed to come into the Beehive, and as you know, there's a standard that is needed to be working in obviously my office, but also in the Beehive in general. So we will look at that to make sure that if there's anything else that we could have done differently in that vetting process.
Did he have access to classified information though? And are you concerned that if he did, then that may have been compromised by him leaving us?
Well, again, DIA will look into all of those processes and Ministerial Services, but I'd just say, you know, we had clearances when he came back into the Beehive, and I'm comfortable that that information would have been managed appropriately.
So that's a yes.
Sorry?
He did have access to classified information in
No,
your
I'm
office?
not going to talk about security clearances that individuals may have. And
But isn't that
what
vital in this case, though, given it could have been compromised? You know, he went to you with India, he was leaving his phone, people have looked through it.
Sure, but what I'm saying to you is I can't talk about the level of clearances that people have, and obviously there's different levels. But essentially, DIA is going to look into that to make sure that we, what other things that we look at around vetting and security.
Are you concerned that one of the screenshots on his phone was of your phone number?
I was unaware of that, but look, it is the reality is many New Zealanders hearing this happened, and what else we can do to strengthen.
Do you feel let down by the processes?
I feel really, gutted for and about is my staff. I have an outstanding team. I have an outstanding team of people that support me in the Prime Minister's office, and our staff here in the Beehive are phenomenal people. And we have worked really hard to build a really great team and a really great culture. And for our people who have worked alongside. And then for my own staff who, this has been quite a shock. This has been quite a shock. Distressing event for them, and I want to make sure that they've got all the support that they need as well.
Did you know that if any of the? Did you know if any
Sorry,
of this?
Joe.
How concerned are you that without the information, without it having come through those vetting processes, you have not been able to be, well, you haven't been able to say that you have a workplace that is safe? Do you have any concerns about whether there has been any safety issues for any of your staff because of the lack of information you were provided?
What I'd say is that we have made sure that we have adhered to and held the highest possible standard of our processes to date. But when you have an incident like this, that actually, irrespective of all the processes that we've built up over many years in this place under successive governments around how we manage staff and how we vet staff and clear staff, there clearly is a need for us now to go back through this example and actually look and say, what else can we do to improve? And those are legitimate questions. I don't have answers for you around those today, but obviously DIA have already kicked off,
What about the police element as well? Because Richard Chambers has said that obviously he found out about it pretty much the same time as you.
A fair question. Well, I think there's just a fair question. Processes in place that actually aren't joined and working in a cross-agency sense well enough, and agency processes between the different agencies, whether it's police, whether it's SIS, whether it's police, whether it's SIS, whether it's ministerial services, others.
And just on the brothel, RNZ has spoken with the brothel involved.
Yep.
The RNZ has had an interview with the madam there. She has raised concerns about the laws that we have in this country around privacy and recording. Do you have concerns about that, and are you going to make any changes or look at those laws?
Yep.
In the
settings again as we go through this experience of we have a series of laws laws, whether it's the harmful digital bill, whether it's privacy laws, whether it's now new stalking laws, but obviously we're open to looking at that further.
What do you say to the women in the parliamentary precinct who work here who have reached out to us?
That are immediately in the team and work closest with the individual. And I met with some of them last night and had good conversations about it. And they just understandably there's anger, there's it's distressing, it's very distressing for those individuals. And so to be able to talk with about them, that will continue. It's frustration and anger because I know how hard our staff work. I know how hard they take this job. They hold the position 24/7. and that, there is no distinction between their personal and their work lives. They hold these positions. They represent this office incredibly well. I've been told there is, we don't believe that there's been evidence of this incident happening here in the work environment. But having said all of that, again, I want DIA to be reassured around that.
Did he have access to the parliamentary gym? And
Sorry?
did he have access to the parliamentary gym?
I don't know.
Do you know if any of the allegations, like the actions, took place there?
Can you just detail how exactly what DIA is going to be looking into, how wide-ranging that is, and when they'll look to report back to you?
Well, I think it's just really important that when you have an incident like this, that with all of our processes which have been, followed as they are, they have been very quick, and they need to do a deep dive on understanding exactly how what happened here and why, and importantly then look at what we need to do to strengthen our processes so that this is actually building on how we do things around this place. I need them to have some time to do that. I think one of the issues, as Joe has raised, is a legitimate question, is what is happening with the interagency engagements. I'll let them go through that process. They are very focused on it, they're very exercised on it. Immediately, the response has been very good. The response has been very good. Confronting news, and it's happened pretty quickly, as you can imagine. But I have to say they've already kicked into gear.
Was it?
They've already kicked into gear.
Was it?
As to whether you were told under no surprises, you've got the former police commissioner in a role with the social investment commissioner in a role with the social investment. Conversation with him about it at all?
I'm not going to jump to any conclusions at this point. It's really important that we actually genuinely learn from this experience and build it into our improved processes. And in fairness, I need to let it causes huge distress for the women that have been impacted, for our own staff. There it raises genuine questions about how could this happen, and actually making sure that we do upgrade our processes. But I need to let that's what I'm saying to you. Those things have been done, and that is our process, and it has been processes on everything that we have done. But even with that, this individual has still come through. The reality is this individual was vetted. The incidents, as I understand it, happened after they were vetted, and then subsequently they didn't raise those issues as concerns, which we would expect them to do because it impacts the office. Do need the DIA to run through those processes.
Was it a government issued? Sorry.
I don't know. It's really important, again, as you could well imagine, that we do respect the independence of the police. There'll be a range of considerations about what they've decided around prosecutions for not based off the law. And as I said, there is a legitimate question around interagency and communication.
Do you know if the investigations will result in this? Due to risk that any security breaches may have flown from it, are there going to be separate investigations into whether information could have been disclosed that shouldn't?
DIA will look into all of that as part of the deep dive into the actions.
Was it a government issued?
Sorry, Mark.
Issue with having background check and then a police investigation.
I think that's a legitimate. I think that's a legitimate question, Mark, and I think that's what I'm alluding to. Is I think we can say we've followed the process where someone was vetted, an incident. There's a series of things that we need to be able to look at, and so that is one of the things I think we can answer.
You said you're open to potential changes to the law, around privacy or confidential communications or something like that. Have
Well, I mean, as you can understand, this is a matter of 24 hours post the event. A matter of 24 hours post the event. If you're a New Zealander listening to this story, you ask quite legitimate. You ask quite legitimate questions about how does this behaviour happen and is it legal or illegal, and I have that same reaction to it as well. All I'm just saying to you is I'm open to revisiting that. In fairness, I think we should let DIA and Ministerial Services work through all the elements of this case and what it brings forward and what
Will be any further allegations about this individual?
Not that I'm aware of. My team and Ministerial Services spoke to the individual immediately. We were informed at 4 o'clock they were.
Has there been any comment about the sort of culture of Parliament or the stress that are under, any other factors raised that contributed?
No, I think you've seen the statement from the individual themselves, where they've talked about their own personal challenges. But I think look, as we've said before, Parliament. We have, we believe in building a better culture. I think we've done an exceptionally, good job at that. That's why for us and our team personally, it's pretty.
Prime Minister,
Is there an obligation in people's contracts who work for you or for ministers?
Prime Minister, was the phone that he was making these was the phone that he was making these was the phone that he was making these was one of them a government phone? Do you know? Did he tell you?
Again, I'm not going to go into that. I'll leave Ministerial Services with you. Certainly in my office, but generally. Upon me to go, I want to talk to. I've been talking to key staff. We'll have an talking to key staff. We'll have an.
Can you just clarify, when was the first time someone in your office found out about this? Had this been found out about this? Had this been raised previously?
At 4 o'clock on Tuesday, when the journalists raised the issues with our office.
And how surprised when at 4 p.m.
I think the request came into our office at 4 o'clock. The individual was called into the office pretty much immediately that night. Process, we would have had a short investigation and they would have been filed. I'm not sure at this stage, but certainly our focus has been moving very quickly through the process. We have huge empathy for the women that have been impacted clearly and obviously to explore.
Just on the MPs and staff from other parties as well who use the building, use the gym, for example, will also be concerned about this. So that care that you're extending to your staff, what's specific?
This is not really a political issue, this is actually a process issue that we have to understand how this happened, because it could have happened to anybody, frankly. I just want to use across the precinct and encourage people to use them. But this will trigger issues for people across the whole of precinct.
Prime Minister, I don't mean to.
Sorry.
Be surprised to learn that much of the alleged.
In the story and me as well. I think.
I don't mean to kink shame, but are you, as a conservative Christian man, okay with members of your office using sex workers?
Well, I'm not going to go into that. I'm just saying to you this is unacceptable behaviour. There is no doubt about it. If you are one of those women who have been treated in this way by this individual, I think that is or in this beehive or on this precinct, that is incredibly. As the processes as they stand today, they